Hello, my name is Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. In this episode, I provide my review of Season 1 of From. I had originally planned doing an episode-by-episode review, but as the season progressed and my concerns deepened, I decided to do a whole season review. I'll discuss my concerns a little later. I have the IMDB page for From on the screen, and I will link to that below, as well as to the Wikipedia page for it. From is a TV show which premiered in 2022 on the Epix network. It was originally developed for YouTube Red back in 2018, but after YouTube Red made the stupid decision to stop all production of scripted programming, it moved to Epix. You'll all recall, by the way, that was when Cobra Kai had to move from YouTube Red to Hulu. Another thing happened, Epix is, or rather was, an interesting cable and satellite television network that used to be owned by MGM. With the acquisition of MGM by Amazon, I am concerned that what Epix seems to be presenting as its hallmark, at least with the original shows, will just become an outlet for Amazon's homogeneity. Epix has several interesting shows, including The Godfather of Harlem, a series based on the life of 1960s gangster Bumpy Johnson, starring Forrest Whitaker; Pennyworth, a series about a version of the backstory of Alfred Pennyworth, Bruce Wayne's butler; Chapelwaite, a series based on Jerusalem's Lot, which is a short story written by Stephen King in Lovecraftian style, which explains some of the backstory for his, in my opinion, his magnum opus, Salem's Lot, which is the best thing he ever wrote and is the best adaptation of anything he ever did. So you should watch it and read it in either order. And of course, what we're talking about here, the TV show From. From was written and created by John Griffin and then produced by the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers are most well known for directing several MCU films, including Captain America: Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War, Avengers: Infinity War, and Avengers: Endgame. From is John Griffin's first big project, however. He's had a couple other TV shows and things here and there. The show is about a town which seems to be somewhere in the middle of the U.S. where the residents are trapped. No matter where you are driving in the U.S., something supernatural occurs and you wind up driving to the town and can never leave. Stop right here if you don't want spoilers. I'll have mild spoilers early on while discussing production. But once I get to the plot and my thoughts on it, I'm going to have major spoilers. The trap in this town is worse than being stuck, because after the sun sets, out from the forest come monsters who look just like people. People who have previously been killed and consumed. Monsters desire nothing more than to rip apart those who are still alive and consume parts of them. On to the production. The writing, in terms of quality, is consistently good to even great at points. It's the actual plotting itself that becomes problematic, which I'll kind of mention later. Although I love the first two episodes, which I saw back to back, but I don't think that I even finished the first episode before a knowing thought emerged in my head. And that was, is this show going to be like Supernatural Fringe? Like that type of show where they have these meta plots and explain it? Or more like Lost to the X-Files? The Lost X-Files path is where there's no long-term meta plot, or the long-term meta plot is just a tease that the showrunners use to keep you coming back for more teases, so to speak. At the conclusion of the season, my enthusiasm has declined as I was getting a sense that this might be more of a Lost X-Files type of thing. I still enjoyed the season, but during the last episodes, I just felt and thought that the show's meta plot was being used as a tease. The sound, music, and score are very good. I really like the theme song. It's a cover of the song Que Sera Sera by the alternative rock band The Pixies. By the way, if you're ever wondering where Pazlin Shanton from A Perfect Circle is now, she's been a member of the Pixies since 2016. The haunting tones of the Pixies introduced in their cover are a stark contrast from the sort of hopeful melancholy of most versions of the song. The way the Pixies cover the song fits almost exactly what From is trying to convey to you. I've linked down below to Doris Day's original release of Que Sera Sera and then the Pixies cover, so you can hear the difference. It's a 2-minute song, so you can compare and contrast it pretty easily. Que Sera Sera was originally written by Jay Livingston and Ray Evans, and then introduced by Doris Day in Hitchcock film The Man Who Knew Too Much, which is back in the 60s. The mood for every episode gets set up wonderfully as you hear the theme song. Whoever's doing the sound and music for the show is doing a great job, not just with the theme song. The cinematography and other production details are all done rather well. Sometimes in a horror movie or show, the directors try to use camera tricks to tease the reveals of the monster or baddie, or even try to hide the final outcome of a particular scene. From is a breath of fresh air and had zero, meaning none of that. that impressed me, and it just seems even good or great horror media has some of that now. It's almost like the directors and whatever who are doing horror, they think you have to have these sort of teaser releases of the monster or whatever instead of just showing it and building up to a great reveal scene. Finally, in this technical part of the technical review, we'll talk about the cast. From as an ensemble cast with several characters who could qualify from the way the show is written and directed to be main characters. The Wikipedia link I specifically give us to the cast and characters are from. As you can see the list. But there's way more than that on the list. There's at least 50 people in this town, plus other stuff. There are honestly more characters by far, as I said, than on the list. Overall, there are no bad actors and no bad acting in this. Even the child actors, Vox Smith and Simon Webster, they avoid all the tropes of child actors and actually do well in their roles here, showing that we have adult actors and directors who know how to work with children. The standout, however, is Harold Perrineau, who plays Boyd Stevens, the elected sheriff of the town. Genre fans will probably recognize him the most from Constantine, where he played Manny in all 12 episodes, or from The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolution, where he played Link, the pilot of the Nebuchadnezzar. The normie audience might know him most recently from the TV comedy Claws. Perrineau steals the show. His presence as Boyd Stevens dominates starting at the first scene he's in. Not only does his character dominate any story arc it appears in, his backstory is incredible, making you root for the character. You embrace Boyd as the lead hero of the show. Some would say this overpowers the other characters who are supposed to be main characters as well, including but not limited to Ian Bailey as Jim Matthews, Catalina Sandino Moreno as Tabitha Matthews, Sean Majumdar as Father Khatri, Ricky Key as Kenny Lou, the deputy town sheriff, or town deputy sheriff, whatever way you're supposed to put that in order, Elizabeth Saunders as Donna, and David Alpay as Jade. Conversely, there are two main characters who do not come across as well. I'm not sure if the problem I have caring about Tabitha Matthews is, by the way, is the way the character is written or the way the actress is playing her. It's could be either. I need to see another season to figure that out. Also, Jade, for the most of the series, the way his character is reacting to things does not come across as natural. Meaning, like how his character is in the setting and under circumstances would react. I think that's a consistency issue. I think they just wrote him to be inconsistent for some reason. I don't know if they did it on purpose or just weren't paying attention. Early on, he comes across someone who doesn't believe the events are real, almost to the point in his first episode of thinking that there's some sort of giant role-playing event going on that one of his billionaire friends set up, and he only gets shocked out by seeing the body of his dead friend. And then after that, his character goes through several other phases, without much emotional commitment to those events. He, for example, only grieves his dead friend like very briefly, and you would think that grief might have lasted a couple episodes. So now we'll go on to the actual story review. Okay, meaning what I kind of do is just the technical aspects, how they film things and set things up and whatever. So this is the absolute point of no return for heavy spoilers. If you watch beyond this point, you're going to reveal major events of the show, and you'll have a good idea how the season turned out. However, I can't spoil the outcome of the season because, well, the meta story elements for the season never got any completion. That's my one annoyance about this. The overall plot setup is that up until Boyd Stevens and his family arrived in town, which seems to be about 6 months ago, although I originally got the impression it was a little longer, like a year ago. I don't know if they got there a year ago. It took 6 months to get to the point where it happened. There was a little bit of inconsistency there. People just didn't survive very long in the town. This part is shown over several flashbacks. The monsters got them sooner rather than later. In another flashback, Boyd's out late one evening. He has to find a way to hide from the monsters. He winds up in this tree where the monsters can't get into. Boyd searches the tree and finds these stones that are covered in runes, which when you put them in doorways, just like they in the tree, the monsters can't get past that doorway. Boyd also becomes the sheriff, and under his leadership, the town begins to have multiple months with no killing of monsters. Should mention that Boyd and his wife are both veterans of the U.S. military. His wife is a retired Marine, and he's a retired something else. I don't know if it was a pilot or a medic or something like that. The town then somewhat divides along two factions, again shown in flashbacks. once they learn to survive. Those who choose to live in the houses that are around the town and the townies, and those who live in what comes to be called Colony House, which is run by Donna. Boyd is very instrumental in getting the town organized and learning to hunt for resources instead of growing food and all that sort of stuff. The only difference you see is that those in Colony House favor the idea of surviving together, and they're depicted as partying a bit more. I think they intended for the divide between the Colony House and the townies to be more than they turned into as the show developed. Like more of a conflict between the two, when the only real conflict seemed to be that the Matthews daughter decided to live in the Colony House, or the Matthews family chose a house, but that only lasted for like 2 episodes. So that's the setup when, as the Matthews family, who I had mentioned, and Jay, they arrive in town, and there are auto accidents. Matthews family in their RV, and Jade and his friend in the sports car. The meta plot for the season is wrapped around 4 major plots. One plot, headed by Boyd Stevens, is to try to travel to the border of the region with the notion that there has to be something out there, some sort of answers or a way out. The second plot, and the reason they don't do that is because the monsters live in the forest. And unless you have one of those stones and you find a big enough tree that you could put the stone in, you in theory you can't get out there. But Boyd tests it, and it works to keep them out of a tent. So that's how he gets that done. The second plot, headed by Jim Matthews and Jade, trying to turn the Colony House into a radio tower so they can send a signal over the tops of the trees in the edge of the valley. The third plot point is Tabitha Matthews leading an effort that her husband and children help with to dig down below the house, trying to find where the power lines in the house lead to, because they seem to just lead straight into the ground. And the basement has a dirt floor. The fourth major plot point is sort of ambiguous, but involves some sort of mysterious spiritual communications that several characters are receiving with conflicting messages. None of these plots gets resolved or even brought to a satisfying stage of resolution by the end of the first season. And that's what I meant back at the beginning when I mentioned that this show seems like it might be following the path of the lost of the X-Files. If you don't get that reference, those shows all suffered from the choice by the creators who never ever advanced the resolution of the mysteries presented by the metaplot until they were forced to by powers that be. So basically, as a fan, you get dragged along with an ever-deepening mystery, and it goes so deep that they never even return to the first mysteries that even drew your interest as a fan. For example, with regard to Boyd trying to reach the end of the valley that they seem to be trapped in the final episode of Season 1, he and his traveling companion come across an area that's covered by massive amounts of spider webs. So the audience thinks, oh wait, maybe some sort of mythological horror-style spider monster could be involved. Like maybe a tied to Arachne from Greek mythology, or an Untitled from Yukon African mythology. Nope. Just a massive colony of somewhat poisonous spiders the size of a medium tarantula. Kind of like they would fit in this circle. They're not even giant spiders. They're just normal-looking spiders that live in a colony. And and once he gets a scene where a bunch of spiders get on him, he has to wipe them off. He gets bit a couple times. The two characters move on. You think that the poison might be affecting the storyline. Nope. Other than being in pain and slowed down, there was a brief point where he feels a little delusional. Literally 20 minutes later, it has no effect on the outcome. With regard to the radio antenna plot, this plot is the best in terms of story progress. And then it literally submarine it and destroy it with a stupid time gimmick that goes nowhere at the end. Okay, they have it set up. They have the transmitter set up. They're transmitting on multiple frequencies. There's actual real kind of. I don't remember enough of my science and engineering classes to say what they were doing would 100% work, but I understand what they were showing was how to manually change frequency. So there's an actual degree of scientific truth to what they were doing. Okay, and so they're transmitting on multiple frequencies, trying to get a message out, and they're listening for someone. They actually connect to someone. They hear a voice, right? And then Donna comes out and says, then there's this giant storm that forms at the edge of the valley. It seems to be coming straight for the Colony House. And Donna remarks that unless they lower the tower, the storm is going to wreck it in about 10 minutes. Then they ignore the 10-minute time limit, and the storm hits. But does it wreck it? Nope. Something else destroys that subplot. So we had 5 or 10 minutes to worry about a storm, went nowhere, and the entire build of the radio tower plot went nowhere. The third plot point about digging the hole seems like it goes somewhere in the final episode. It even ties into a plot point involving a supporting character who disappeared early in the season. But then nothing. Like not even a hint of anything. They even tease the monsters sometimes live down there, but we don't even see a monster or the character being chased by a monster or anything. This is all kind of sad because I like the story, the overall story. I like the characters for the most part and the way they're pressing through it. But this episode amounts to nothing happening other than basically telling us to tune in for the second season. Like no even partial resolution or reveals or anything. There's a principle in terms of storytelling. It doesn't matter if it's a movie or a book or a video game or whatever, that the event depicted can be edited out with zero impact on the story, that should just be edited out. Due to how they left all these major plot threads hanging with almost zero progress, you can literally edit out almost everything some of the characters did. Like the Tommy Lou, the Kenny Lou, the deputy sheriff. You could edit almost everything he did in the season because of certain plots not resolving. So now it's time for my 5 questions, and I'll put them up on the board one by one, and so we can talk about them. At its conclusion, does this season make me wish that I had more to watch, or does it make me wish that it had been shorter, or that I wasted my time? Ultimately, it's a question of wasting my time and making me wish it was shorter. That's question number 2. Do I hate the portrayal of the primary characters? Only in the sense I think the showrunners intended you to think that there was more than one primary character. Unfortunately or fortunately, Boyd's storyline and backstory and Harold Perrill's excellent acting job for this make him dramatically rise above the others. Question number 3. Did the show annoy me with any moronic gimmicks like camera techniques that constantly cut away and so on and so forth? The only annoying gimmick, if you will, is the possibility they're going the route of Lost or the X-Files. We'll have to see how a second season develops, see if they presumably get one, because we don't know if they're renewed yet or not, to see if they go that route or not. Is the show preaching at me, meaning is it telling me I need to change something about my life or whatever? Nope, none of that in this. And number 5, are there deal breaker moments, meaning something so weird happens that I lose my suspension of disbelief and can't get it back? Not particularly. None of that happens. Well, there's an excellent level of production by the director and by the writer to avoid sort of a lot of the tropes of horror or a lot of the, like a lot of the things that take you out of the feeling of terror they're building. So, my final thoughts. There's a lot to like about From. It's well put together. Every episode advances the narrative to some extent. The characters, with 2 exceptions, are at least enjoyable as part of the story. And those 2 exceptions are, not that they're not bad, but they're just kind of meh. That's AJ and the one that Moreno plays, Matthew's mother. The horror aspect is very well done. You get a constant creepy vibe. If you see enough horror, you'll recognize elements from other horror movies or shows, such as Salem's Lot, which I talked about earlier, or some of the Hammer horror films. The atmospheres are excellent. From avoids what I call jump scare syndrome, where they replace horror moments in movies with just incessant, stupid jump scares. I recommend watching season 1 of From. There's more to enjoy this season. We'll have to wait and see how it turns into a tease, or not. We need a season 2 to determine it. If they just keep doing this, stretching things out and teasing you in a meta plot, then I'm not going to watch season 3. But I'll watch season 2 to see if they wisely, hopefully, choose to move forward with the plot. Comment down below if you please, or if you don't, then that's fine too. If you have any questions for me, you can put them down below. Share this video if you like. Like it if you like, dislike if you dislike. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. My name is Matt. It's Unbearable 73. I feel like the allergies are going to make my head explode. Have a nice day, and I am out of here.